For decades, Pierce Brosnan has been the perfect example of a Hollywood gentleman, the ultimate professional. He's the man who saved the James Bond franchise with his smooth charm, becoming one of the most beloved actors on the planet. He's famous for his kindness and a reputation so polished it would make 07 jealous. On the set of Mamma Mia, his co-star Christine Baranski remembered how Brosnan would bring fresh flowers for everyone, every single morning, a small gesture that said a lot about his character. He's the guy who, after losing the role of a lifetime, spoke about his pain with heartbreaking honesty, admitting the firing hurt like mad, and felt like being kicked to the curb. But what if that's only part of the story? What if behind that perfect smile, there's a list of co-stars who pushed the gentleman past his limit? Recently, the internet has lit up with sensational headlines claiming that now, at age 72, Pierce Brosnan is finally telling all. They claim he's exposing the actors he secretly couldn't stand. But is there any truth to these claims? Today, we're not just repeating rumors. We're going to investigate them. We're counting down the 5 stars Pierce Brosnan allegedly despised working with, revealing the on-set clashes that were supposedly kept secret until now. And the story at number 1 might just change how you see this iconic James Bond forever. Coming in at number 5 is a name that seems totally impossible. Acting royalty herself, Meryl Streep. On paper, their work on the 2008 hit Mamma Mia was a match made in heaven. The world's most charming actor and the world's most celebrated actress, singing ABBA songs on a Greek island. What could possibly go wrong? Well, the rumors swirling online suggest that behind the sunny, happy vibe of the film, Brosnan was dealing with a quiet, intense pressure that came directly from his legendary co-star. These online reports don't paint a picture of a big fight, but of a deep-seated intimidation. The story goes that Brosnan, an actor who relies on his natural charisma, felt completely out of his league next to Streep's famously brilliant approach to every scene. According to these whisper campaigns, every moment on set was a masterclass from Meryl, and for Pierce it was paralyzing. One YouTube video claims that insiders saw Brosnan walk onto set and immediately feel a pressure he hadn't felt in years. The story they push is that he felt his own performance just couldn't measure up, especially when it came to the singing. Let's be honest, Pierce Brosnan's singing in Mamma Mia became a famous talking point. Some people found it charming, others, not so much. Brosnan himself admitted his preparation involved singing karaoke to his own voice for 6 weeks, and that early rehearsals sounded dreadful. The rumors suggest that having to sing next to a powerhouse like Streep created a sense of professional dread. The theory isn't that he disliked her, but that he was in a state of tortured admiration that made the job incredibly hard. But what's the reality? Is there a single piece of credible evidence for any of this? The answer is a loud and clear no. In fact, everything we can verify points in the exact opposite direction. When the movie was announced, Brosnan was full of nothing but excitement. He told Variety, "What a kick in the pants to be able to go off and spend time with Meryl on some Greek island singing ABBA songs." He talked about loving the stage show with his family, calling it wonderfully happy and joyful. These aren't the words of a man who's dreading a project. Years later, his story hasn't changed. In May of 2023, when asked about a third Mamma Mia, Brosnan immediately said he'd love to do it, especially if Meryl Streep was involved. He was quoted by E! News saying, "Come back, Meryl, anytime you like. Please, you're always in my heart." He recalled Streep once saying, "It's criminal. How much fun we've had making this movie." And he completely agreed. So where did these rumors come from? It seems to be pure fiction, spun from 2 simple facts. Meryl Streep is an acting legend, and Pierce Brosnan is not a professional singer. The online gossip machine took those 2 truths and created a dramatic story that has no basis in reality. The only tension was in the minds of clickbait creators twisting respect into something ugly. The truth is a story of professional admiration and genuine friendship. At number 4, we have someone Brosnan never even worked with, which makes the story even weirder. This isn't about a fight on set, but a meeting of the minds that was so wild, it became a Hollywood legend. We're talking about the one and only Quentin Tarantino. The story, which Brosnan himself has told, is one of cinema's great what-ifs. After Kill Bill Vol. 2 Feuds came out, the famously energetic director wanted to meet with Brosnan to pitch his own James Bond movie. A meeting was set at the Four Seasons in Hollywood. Brosnan, being the pro he is, showed up right on time at 7 p.m. But 7:15 came and went. No Quentin. Turns out Tarantino was upstairs doing press interviews. A martini was sent over to Brosnan to thank him for waiting. He drank it. At 7:30, still no Quentin. So, he had another one. Brosnan admitted that by the time Tarantino finally arrived, he was already fairly smokered. What happened next wasn't a calm pitch meeting. Tarantino, in his usual high-energy style, ordered more apple martinis for them both. Soon, as Brosnan put it, they were both fairly smokered. Tarantino then launched into his pitch with explosive energy. Brosnan remembered, he was pounding the table saying, "You're the best James Bond. I want to do James Bond." The scene was so loud that Brosnan, always the discreet gentleman, started getting nervous. He thought to himself, "Please calm down." But as he wisely noted, we don't tell Quentin Tarantino to calm down. Tarantino's idea was bold. He wanted to adapt Ian Fleming's first novel, Casino Royale, as a 1960s period piece, and he wanted Brosnan for the part, even though Brosnan's Bond was modern. Tarantino had been a fan for years, once ranking the Bonds as Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, then just a little under him, Roger Moore. Brosnan was interested. He took the idea to the Bond producers, but as he put it, it wasn't meant to be. They had their own plans. So if this was a positive, if chaotic meeting, why is Tarantino on a list of people Brosnan supposedly hated? This is a perfect example of how the internet twists reality. The story of their martini-fueled meeting has been reframed by gossip channels as a personality clash. They paint Tarantino's wild passion as something that would have annoyed the composed Brosnan. The narrative suggests that while Brosnan was publicly polite, privately he found Tarantino's energy to be way too much. Of course, there's zero evidence for this. It's pure guesswork based on their different personalities. Brosnan has never said a bad word about the director. The clickbait version of the story is that the very things that make Tarantino a genius, his energy, his loud talking, his table pounding, are exactly what a man like Pierce Brosnan would secretly hate. The truth is much simpler. It was a meeting between two industry giants with very different vibes. It led to a fascinating but unmade movie idea. Brosnan simply shared a funny story about a memorable night. There was no feud, just mutual respect, and maybe a few too many apple martinis. For number 3, it's not a single actor, but the very people who gave Pierce Brosnan the role of a lifetime, and then, in his own words, ripped it away from him. The James Bond producers, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson. This isn't a story built on internet rumors. This is a painful chapter in Brosnan's career that he has spoken about with raw bitterness, a wound that seemed like it might never heal. After 4 films, starting with 1995's GoldenEye, Brosnan had successfully rebooted the 007 franchise. The box office numbers were huge. Die Another Day, his 4th movie, was the highest-grossing Bond film ever at that time. By all accounts, he was a massive success. Brosnan thought he was coming back for a 5th film. He wanted to. Following the success of Die Another Day, the producers had apparently told him they wanted him back, and he went on that film's press tour, a happy man, believing another movie was a sure thing. Then, the rug was pulled out from under him. The story of how he was fired is brutally cold. He was in the Bahamas filming After the Sunset when his agents called. They told him negotiations had stopped and that the producers would call him personally. Recalling that phone call, Brosnan has been brutally honest. He said, "Barbara and Michael were on the line. We're so sorry." She was crying. Michael was stoic, and he said, "You were a great James Bond. Thank you very much." And I said, Thank you very much. Goodbye. Just like that, it was over. Brosnan described the feeling in sharp terms. I was utterly shocked and just kicked to the curb with the way it went down. He called it torture and a real body blow. To this day, he seems unsure of the reason, once saying, "They just changed their minds. They had a different take on it one day. I'm not sure why." The producer's reasoning, which came out later, was that the franchise needed a grittier direction in a post-9/11 world, especially with the rise of the more realistic Jason Bourne movies. Die Another Day, with its invisible cars and ice palaces, was seen as too over the top, and a reboot was needed. There were also rumors that Brosnan's salary demands were too high, though he has never mentioned that as the reason. While you can't say he hated the producers, this relationship made him a superstar. The way it ended was, by his own account, deeply painful. He felt betrayed. For an actor known for his grace, his public comments on this stand out for their raw emotion. It was a brutal end to a hugely successful run, a business decision that felt intensely personal. This isn't a fake feud for clicks. This is a well-documented, painful Hollywood divorce. We've covered everything from baseless rumors to painful truths, but we're just getting started. The next two names involve on-set friction that became Hollywood legend, with clashing egos and flaring tempers. Before we get to our controversial number 2, if you're enjoying this deep dive, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss another investigation. Coming in at number 2 is maybe the most famous conflict of Pierce Brosnan's entire career. This alleged feud has been gossip column fodder for over 20 years. We're talking about his Tomorrow Never Dies co-star, Terry Hatcher. When filming began in 1997, Pierce Brosnan was on top of the world. GoldenEye had been a massive success, and he was the undisputed star. Cast as his former lover, Paris Carver, was Terry Hatcher, who was then a huge TV star on Lois and Clark. On screen, their chemistry was supposed to be passionate and bittersweet. Off-screen, according to many reports and even Brosnan himself, things were frosty. The main issue, reported over and over, was Hatcher's alleged tardiness. Brosnan, the ultimate professional, was reportedly left waiting for his co-star for hours. In a surprisingly frank 2005 interview, Brosnan himself confirmed it. He stated, "I got very upset with her. She was always keeping me waiting for hours. I must admit I let slip a few words which weren't very nice. And that one quote, it's what the entire feud is built on. It's a direct admission of a fight from the man himself." For years that was the story. A punctual star got fed up with an inconsiderate co-star. Rumors also spread that the slap Hatcher gives Brosnan in the film was deliberately hard, a physical sign of their animosity. The story was simple. James Bond and his Bond girl couldn't stand each other. But, like in any good spy movie, there's a huge twist. A piece of information that changes everything. Brosnan also revealed in that same interview that he later found out why Hatcher was late. She was pregnant and suffering from terrible morning sickness. Suddenly, the whole story shifts. What looked like a diva co-star was actually a woman trying to work through a difficult pregnancy on a massive blockbuster set. But what's really fascinating, and what keeps this feud alive, is Brosnan's reaction even after learning the truth. After explaining she was pregnant, he added a somewhat curt, "Still, these things happen." Many have taken that dismissive comment as a sign that even with the explanation, his anger never really went away. It suggested that, in his mind, professionalism on set should have come first, no matter what. This case is complicated. Unlike the Meryl Streep rumors, there was a real conflict. Brosnan said so himself. Harsh words were exchanged, but the reason for it changes everything. Was Hatcher unprofessional, or was she a trooper for just showing up? Was Brosnan right to be angry, or was he being unsympathetic? The story that has stuck around, thanks to that one quote, is one of lasting resentment. It remains the clearest example of Brosnan's gentlemanly mask cracking under pressure. And here we are, the number 1 spot. The story we promised might change how you see James Bond. All the other names on this list were colleagues or professional partners. But this final story is different. This incident allegedly happened away from the cameras, in the real world. And it's not about professional frustration, but about pure rudeness. The number one person on the list of actors Pierce Brosnan allegedly hated is James Corden. This bombshell comes directly from Corden himself. During a 2017 Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts segment on his own show, Corden was asked to name the rudest celebrity he'd ever met. Rather than eat something disgusting, he spilled the beans, and his target was Pierce Brosnan. According to Corden, it happened at a U2 concert. He and his wife were there, and so was Brosnan with some friends. Corden explained that Brosnan and his group left their spot halfway through the show, leaving a great viewing area empty. After a while, Corden and his wife moved into the empty space. Then, suddenly, Brosnan and his friends came back. Corden described what happened next. "Literally, I've never felt anything like it. This arm went on here and just pushed me out the way. And I looked at him, and he didn't even glance at me, and he just moved back into his area." When his guest, Khloe Kardashian, suggested maybe Brosnan was drunk, Corden's reply was blunt. "Maybe he's just a bit rude." This story is shocking because it's the total opposite of Brosnan's public image. This wasn't about set pressure or a misunderstanding. This was a direct, physical, and dismissive act of rudeness, according to Corden. The story went viral because it painted a picture of Pierce Brosnan that nobody had ever seen before, arrogant, entitled, and rude to a fellow entertainer. For years, this has been the biggest stain on Brosnan's otherwise perfect reputation. While other stories on this list are up for interpretation, this was a direct, on-the-record accusation from an A-list celebrity on his own TV show. Corden's story is clear. He says he was physically pushed and then ignored. So, is it true? Has Pierce Brosnan ever responded? To this day, Brosnan has kept a dignified silence. He has never publicly addressed Corden's story, leaving the accusation just hanging there. Was Corden exaggerating for a laugh? Did it happen differently? Or is Pierce Brosnan, the charming gentleman, capable of being incredibly rude when he thinks no one's watching? It's one person's word against a reputation built over decades, and that's what makes it the number one story. It's not just about hating someone. It's a direct challenge to the very idea of who Pierce Brosnan is. The other stories can be explained away by work pressure or misunderstanding, but Corden's story paints a picture of a man who, in a casual moment, was allegedly just plain rude. Without a response from Brosnan, we're all left to wonder, who is the real Pierce Brosnan? The gracious star who brings flowers to the set, or the man who allegedly shoves people at a concert? The silence is deafening. So, what have we learned? From the totally made-up feud with Meryl Streep to the genuinely painful firing by the Bond producers. From the misunderstood conflict with a pregnant Terry Hatcher to the wild meeting with Quentin Tarantino. And finally, the shocking accusation from James Corden. What's clear is that the viral narrative of Pierce Brosnan hates these actors is a huge distortion. Most of these stories are either completely baseless, spun out of nothing for clicks, or they're complex situations that have been oversimplified into dramatic feuds. The one clear on-set conflict, with Terry Hatcher, was complicated by a reality Brosnan didn't know about at first. The pain he felt over the Bond role was about a professional decision, not personal hatred. And the most damaging story from James Corden is still a one-sided anecdote that clashes with decades of evidence of Brosnan's professionalism. It seems the image of Pierce Brosnan as a Hollywood gentleman is mostly safe. But these stories are a great reminder that behind the scenes, relationships are complicated, pressure is intense, and sometimes, even a secret agent can have a bad day. The truth, as it turns out, is a lot more interesting than a clickbait headline. What do you think? Do any of these stories change your opinion of Pierce Brosnan? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.